join us for episode 131, Disney World Planning Guide, what the lead planner needs to know. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a video. Hello, Disney family. Welcome to another episode. I had no intention of actually filming this episode, but I was sitting here with the papers going over different things that I needed to go over with my friends and neighbors. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I just record this episode so I can actually hold up the pieces of paper and explain to you what I'm going to be doing. So if you are listening to this in the car, I will let you know when I'm holding up something and explaining it. Or maybe when you get to your desk or wherever you are, you play it in the background with some headphones, and then you can look up at the screen when I'm talking. So today is all about taking first timers to Disney, and I'm talking about true first timers. So if you're planning your first trip in adulthood, maybe you went as a child, or this is your first time to ever experience Disney and you're taking your friends or your family, this episode is definitely for you, because our neighbors, which are also our good friends, and their mom is one of my best friends. She's the mom that I'm doing life with, and they have not wanted to go to Disney. We have been trying for years to get them to go to Disney. And then finally this year, something cracked and they're like, okay, we're ready to go. To the point where my kids were like, I have no faith that they're going to go. We were buying them magic bands to surprise them because the parents already knew that they were going. And so we thought that would be a cute way to display to them that they're heading to Walt Disney World. My daughter literally goes, I don't know why we're doing this. It's never going to happen. And of course, it was a surprise to everyone. Everyone is super excited. And we have finally locked down the dates. And so now we are planning a full-blown Disney trip with a Universal add-on that we're going to do in the beginning. And it is one of the most expensive times of the year, but she is a teacher, so she has very limited days off. And so we are going to be going during that window between right after Christmas and school gets back in session in January. We will miss just like 1 or 2 days of school, but that is our time. And this is like their one big shebang. Do I think it'll be the only time that we get them to Disney? No, because I think they're going to experience so much magic that they will want to go back again. But I, as the planner, am going to do everything that I can to ensure that they have a wonderful time. So the first thing you need to do as a planner is kind of like slow down the overwhelm. If you look at Walt Disney World as like a holistic thing, it feels very overwhelming because you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many parks, there's so many resorts. Where do I stay? What do I need to do? And if you really break down Disney, these are the only things you need to figure out. When are you going? How are you getting there? Where are you staying? Those are the three main things. Once you figure that out, then you can start dissecting your days. But if you don't know how many days you're going to go for, if you don't know how you're getting there, and then also where you're staying, you kind of get stuck. So for us, we knew this is like a once in a lifetime trip for them. So we needed to stay at minimum 5 nights because we needed 2 park days, a rest day in the middle, and 2 park days, and then departure the next morning. That is the bare minimum for me. I don't think that you should do anything less. I prefer when people like fly in early in the morning and then kind of get settled and rest and then do their 2 park days, rest a day, do their 2 park days, and then they can leave in the morning. I don't recommend anything shorter than that. So with us, we knew we were also going to Universal. And so I wanted that in the beginning of the trip since it's such a short part instead of like an add-on at the end. So we knew we needed to go like a minimum of like 9 nights to really experience it and also not be stressed out. Then we were deciding, do we drive or do we fly there? And even though it's a longer trip, and typically I like to drive when we go for a long time, that way we have some car freedom. The reality is school is going to be back in session. She's also a teacher. We have a regional airport that flies to Sanford, and now it does fly to MCO twice a week. So the idea was, okay, if we can expand this trip, not have days of driving, then we should just fly. So that was checked. The next thing was figuring out where we're going to stay and what's going to be in budget. Because we're going with people, staying at a DVC resort is really expensive for a lot of people. And because it's such an expensive time of year, we had to like keep that in mind because park tickets are going to be more expensive if we do any after hours parties because Jollywood Night extends this year till January. That's going to be really expensive. Universal is going to be so expensive because it's during that holiday window. We wanted to save some money, so we landed on a moderate resort for most of the days, and then we would use our DVC points to have like a special treat and stay in like a 3-bedroom somewhere for like 2 nights of it towards the end of the trip. And then deciding how long Universal was going to be. Universal can now be its own trip, but because the twins are 11 and they also have an 11-year-old, we were like, we're going to make this a Harry Potter focused trip and act like they're going to Hogwarts, basically. We're still going to do a lot of Universal things, but the priority is to experience like all the Hogwarts magic, do a little bit of the other things at Universal and Islands of Adventure, and then have a full day of Epic. Make sure that we're staying on property so we get that early entry. And then we will pay for Express Pass for Epic, but the other 2 parks, we need to stay at a resort that will give us Express Pass access. So that gave us the foundation of our trip. So once you've decided the basics, you know how long you're going, you know where you're staying, and you know how you're getting there, you want to jump in to start planning days, but you have to like pump the brakes on that. Before you even start planning all of that stuff, as the lead planner, you need to figure out a lot of things. Now, this pertains a lot more when they're multi-generational trips or they're trips with friends and family. But even with your own family, you need to do these kind of things because they may not be as excited for Disney as you are. And you use the time that you're planning and doing the research and doing all the legwork to also get them excited. So that way, when they get there, they're just as excited as you are as the planner. And that is the piece that so many people miss. So many people spend time planning behind the scenes, getting everything ready for the trip, and they finally get there and they have poured their heart and soul into making this a magical vacation only for their family's reactions to be very duddy and them to feel unappreciated. And like, why did I do all of this? Why was I killing myself? Because no one seems to be happy and no one seems to appreciate anything. So, not saying that you have to include people the entire time in the planning process, but you also have to work on getting them excited. So before you even do that, you need to really be honest with yourself and figure out how you plan a Disney vacation. That way, you know what your strengths are and what some of your challenges are. So if you're listening to this right now, I'm going to share my screen. If you're watching this, you're seeing this. I just pulled up what kind of Disney traveler are you? Discover your Enneagram type. So these Enneagrams, there's a quiz on here where you can figure out what's your Disney Enneagram. And I love it because I like paired it with all of the Disney characters. This is me putting on my therapist hat and just being like, okay, how does each of these people plan a trip or how do they experience Disney and how will that affect other people on the trip? So if you go to this, you can take the quiz and then it'll tell you who. I am an Enneagram 2. So I am called the helper. So I'm going to go through mine and show you who I am. But I did pair these also with characters. So it's really cute. So let me just run through some of those. So number 1 is the reformer, which is Mary Poppins. Then you have the helper, which I put Cinderella. Number 3 is the achiever, and I have Hercules on there. 4 is the individualist, which is Belle. 5 is the investigator, which is Elsa. 6 is the loyalist, which I put as Woody. 7 is the enthusiast, which is Rapunzel. 8 is the challenger, which is Mulan, and 9 is the peacemaker, which is Pocahontas. Now, if you click it onto these, you will see that I have a lot of different other characters that could be also that type, but that's how I broke them up. Some positive traits about me: I'm caring, interpersonal, I'm generous, people pleasing a little bit, and a little possessive. That is very true. So some of the strengths that I have are that I'm going to be really considerate of other people's needs. That's normal for me. I want to make sure that I have an inclusive atmosphere, which I think is really important in making sure everyone feels like they're getting to do something that was important to them. And one of my best skills, which is the whole reason why I have this account, and probably the only reason that 99% of people follow me, Enneagrams 2 have a very unique skill of anticipating needs. It is truly one of your best skills if you're an Enneagram 2, is that you foresee all of the issues that are going to come up or possibly come out before it happens. So that's why we understand like what to pack in our strollers, what to pack in our park bags, what the kids are going to need, how often we're going to need to snack, because we definitely see holistically and see the big picture. So here are some of the challenges if you have not overcome these as an Enneagram 2. We are people pleasing and we burn out on it. Like we will go to the end and then we're like, wait a minute, we hate this. We also sometimes have a difficult time saying no. I do not at this phase in my life, but that is a trait of us. And then we do overextend ourselves, and I definitely still do that sometimes, but we will go so far to make sure that everyone is accommodated, and we'll be so exhausted. So just keep that in mind when you're planning a trip for a group of people or your family, or you're just like, I'm going to take over and handle everything and not give anyone else responsibilities on the trip. You can't do that either. So here are some ways to stay realistic. You're going to set boundaries early. You're going to make your intentions for planning very clear. You're going to delegate responsibilities. And I will show you how I do that with other families coming to us. But you really need to make sure that you're not taking on the load of the entire group. And then you have to keep expectations in check. That's the biggest thing. Make sure everyone understands what is realistic, what's not realistic. That way their expectations are in check and you don't feel the need to overextend yourself. And then I also put how Enneagram 2 affects planning the group and give you some suggestions on how to deal with some of those challenges. And then I also add other characters that are Enneagram 2. We have Anna here and also Baymax from Big Hero 6. So hopefully this would help you just identify who you are, why you do what you do, and then how it affects the group and how you may need to change that. So for those people who are especially achievers or challengers, this will help you a lot, because achievers have the most difficult time at Disney because their measure is how much they can get done and how many rides they can get on. And sometimes that takes precedence over like everyone's need for balance. And so you have to keep that in mind. So I hope that that would help you. And it's also fun to like figure out your Enneagram and attach a Disney character to it. So that is why I start there. I always start there. Then if you are someone who does not know Disney at all, doesn't know where to start outside of like, we know how we're getting there, when we're going, and where we're staying, I do have a Disney World planning guide that is like a very intense index of information. It When you first look at it, you really need to read it section by section so you don't get overwhelmed. But the sheets that I am going to use are from here. So I want to show you where this is located. So if you're listening, I'll describe what's here. So I'm going to share the screen again. So it's the complete Walt Disney World planning guide, and it's updated for 26-27. So I introduced this guide, and then I also have a section that's like hate research. You can start here and you can just go to the one-day guides. Now these guides are, I only have Magic Kingdom done and all the parties done, and it's basically a step-by-step itinerary on what to do, but it's made specifically for people who are off property. I am a on property girl. I want you to stay on property. I do not want you to stay off property. I would rather you stay at a value resort. And one other tip that I always tell people, if you're going for like a full trip, sometimes depending on the time of year, you want to look for discounts first. But if they have a really good annual pass discount on rooms, I always tell you to have one person in the party get an annual pass, because even if it's an out of state annual pass, and let's say that's $1,600, but you were already going to spend about $800 to $900 on your tickets. Your Disney tickets are the second largest expense that you will spend. So being able to get one annual pass and get the benefits of like 40% off of resort rooms, 10% off of every dining experience that is like a table service, 20% off of merch. Then there's like special VIP days. Right now during the summer, there are restaurants where we get 40% off, and some of them are character meals. So there are so many advantages to having an annual pass, and only one person in the party needs it. So you don't need to get everyone an annual pass. So just consider that. But I always am like, if one person can do that and you can stay on property because you're going to save 40% on the room, I would do that. I spent a lot of years not on property at Walt Disney World, especially like growing up. So I understand like not staying on property and wanting more space. But if you're having a full Disney trip, even if you can get into the value resorts, that would be great. Okay, now back to sharing. I accidentally shared January for you, but let's go back to planning Walt Disney World. So they have the 1-day guides, and then I have a very handy Disney World booking window calculator. This is so awesome. You literally put in your check-in date and it will give you all the dates you need. So let's just pick a random date. I'm going to pick November 7th, and I'm staying on property. If you're not staying on property, it will also have a calculator for you. But then it gives you all of your important dates. So right now it's showing me Enchanted Extras booking starts at midnight, Tuesday, September 28th. Advanced dining reservations open at 6 a.m. on September 8th. And then Lightning Lane booking starts at 7 a.m. on October 31st. So I just love having that calculator on there for you. So make sure you check that out. And then I just go into some truths of Disney. And I have a reel on here that's really important about not making the most of your vacation. And it sounds crazy when I'm saying that, but what I'm trying to get you to understand is sometimes when you're like, we got to make the most of this, you feel like you have to do so much. And it's like, if you want to have a great time, especially with kids, like don't make the most of it. And so watch that reel, and I just give you some info. And then I give you some info on other Disney vacations, because even though you've already chosen Walt Disney World, it may not be the right fit for you. So I just, sneakily introduced Disney Cruise Line because you guys know we have fallen in love. And then I also do the difference between Disneyland and Walt Disney World, because if you've been here long enough, for a while I was not going to Disney World when the kids were little, when I had 3 under 3, because Disneyland is the more manageable park when they are very little. And then I have what's your Disney vacation style? Now, this quiz is actually specifically if you're planning a trip with other people. So my friends who are going with us are going to take this quiz, and that will help me as a planner know, like, okay, they need to do it this way or whatever. So it has questions like, when you're on vacation, what sounds most like your family? We have a loose plan with a room to be flexible. We have a detailed itinerary and know exactly where we're going. Vacation is for relaxing. We don't like schedules. We decide each day as we go. That is very important information if you're planning a trip with someone. So there are 12 questions that really help you figure out what kind of a planner or a family that you are going on vacation with, so that you understand, like, okay, if this is our family style and this is their family style, we're going to have to find somewhere in the middle. But then you're not shocked, because you could do life with someone every day and feel like, okay, yeah, I know them. And then you get on vacation and you're like, this is not what I expected at all. So that quiz is there for you to send to the other people you're going with. And that should help you. Then the pages I'm about to show you on the podcast all come from this free Disney planning workbook. So this workbook is 74 pages, and you do not need them all. I basically made pages for every single scenario of planning, so that way you don't have to find them anywhere else. And so you will have things for flying, things for driving. You'll have every single kind of packing list, outfit planners for kids, outfit planners for adults. You'll have vacation overview sheets, travel planning sheets, and I use probably 15 to 20 sheets every time we go. And again, there's 74. So you pick what you need and take what you need. There's a grocery list, there's a sample list in here. I put the addresses. There's so many things in here that are useful, and it's free to you. You just sign up for my newsletter and you get a link to this newsletter freebies page, and you can download all of this stuff. And then the book really goes into like, or the rest of the blog really goes into Disney World. So I have movie watch lists broken up by parks in here, and then it starts getting into the index. So it basically will tell you setting up your Disney vacation framework, and it links you to all of my blogs that are timelines or overviews. And then setting a budget, then I give you blogs on how to set a budget. So this is a really good resource for you. It's just a lot of information. So it might make you nervous when you first look at it, because you're not supposed to sit down and do all of it in one sitting. It is it's basically your timeline. Like you go in and you're like, okay, I'm doing this section today, and then I'm doing this section today. And it's supposed to help you throughout your entire journey of planning. So please don't look at that and be like, okay, I'm going to do this today. It's not a today thing. It's a months in advance thing. So here's where I am now. I have broken down, our resorts. I've broken down our time. I am giving these sheets to my friends so that I can get some answers for them. So the first one is a ride questionnaire. So this is in the book. And the reason why I need this before we even start planning the parks is because I need to know who is motion sick. What type of motion sickness is this? I will never forget when I turned 40 and we all went with my friends. We were on the friendship boat, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, I'm getting kind of motion sick." I was like, "We did not have to take this friendship boat. We could have walked." But I didn't know that she got motion sick from boats. And so, finding out thrill levels, especially with 3 kids who have never been to Disney World, and I think they've only done like a couple theme parks. We do have a local theme park. But it's like good to know, like, is there someone who is the name of the person who avoids rides or avoids roller coasters or who loves roller coasters? And then just finding out their roller coaster experience. Like, have you ever been on one? How many times? I ask about ride elements. So in here, it's like, which ride features does each person enjoy? Do you like trumps? Do you like launches? Do you like backwards launches? Do you like inversion? Some people don't like loops at all. High speeds, dark rides. My son, who is the ultimate thrill kid, will not ride Space Mountain because it's in the dark. But I'm like, Guardians is in the dark too. And he's like, no, it's not. He's like, there's screens everywhere and you're seeing all the stuff. Space Mountain just has some like fake stars and I don't like it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You ride every ride that you're tall enough for at Universal and SeaWorld, but you will not ride Space Mountain. So those are important things to know ahead of time. Then I have a section that says family priorities, and I list about like 12 things, but they only can circle 3 because I need to know what is actually really important to them. And the same thing about like their top 2 Disney vacation style. So now they've taken that quiz and I know how they vacation on all of their vacation. So now I ask them, what do you think you're going to be like at Disney? Circle 2 of them. And it has like ride warrior, Disney foodie, character chaser, resort relaxer. Like, what do you think you're going to be when you go to Disney? So I try to match that with the type that they got on the quiz. And then I have a little section at the bottom that's like, what is one thing you're hoping to experience on your Disney vacation? Because I remember my niece, we did like this whole like amazing like Christmas trip, and she was having a blast. And characters were on the list. I just hadn't planned a character meal. I just thought we could like meet and greet. And she was like, well, when am I going to get to like spend time with Mickey? I was like, spend time? It's like, this is more than a meet and greet. So, we went to our favorite place. We went to Chef Mickey, and she was so happy because she got to meet all of the characters and spend time with the characters more than a meet and greet. So that's something that would have been really important to know ahead of time. Luckily, Chef Mickey's is pretty decently easy to book, even last minute, even during the holidays, if you know you need to grab it. And so we were able to do that. So that's my ride questionnaire for them. Then the other thing that I give them that I'm going to show you is a Disney family interest survey. And on this survey, I just have them put, it says log into Disney Plus and go through titles. So I have spaces for their favorite Disney movies and favorite Disney characters. And then, and telling them to go on Disney Plus. I haven't asked anyone since the Hulu merger, but I still think with Disney Plus, you can get a really good idea movie-wise what they like, and they'll focus mostly on the Disney movies. And then I have an MK ride bucket list, Epcot ride bucket list, because what I'm hoping is that they start like YouTubing attractions. And if they put nothing on here, that's perfectly fine. But people are like, oh, my one friend told me that I should get on Guardians, but then they write that they hate darkness and backwards launches. And then I'm like, well, your one friend doesn't know you that well. But if they've heard of things that they should ride, it's easy for me to like gauge or ask them like why they want to ride that ride. My best friend from childhood, when we went to Disney, she was like, oh, my friends keep telling me I need to get on Peter Pan. I need to get on Peter Pan. And I look at her because yes, Peter Pan is one of my favorites because it reminds me of riding with my parents. And I know it'll be one of my kids, especially my youngest, because it reminds her of riding it with me. But I'm looking at her, this non-Disney person, and I'm like, why do you want to ride Peter Pan? And so we get on Peter Pan and we get off of it. And she's like, and why do people want to ride that? And I was like, girl, it's the nostalgia. It's not because it's like some like crazy, amazing ride. It's amazing because as Disney people, we appreciate it. But you as a non-Disney lover, I'm like, have you even watched Peter Pan? So that's why that's important, just to like gauge and just to see if there is anything that they are excited about. And then other sheets that I have given them just so that they can basically be on the same page and know what is going on and not feel like they're kind of kept in the dark. I have a Disney vacation checklist, and this has a list of about 20 items, and there's little boxes for them to check off. So it'll say like park tickets purchased, dining reservations completed, dessert parties and VIP experiences booked, any behind the scenes tour, event tickets, transportation, photo pass, hotel reservations, scooter and stroller rentals if needed, transportation to Disney, packing list items purchased, resort reservations, magic bands ordered. That way, like, like these are just some things that need to be done and you don't feel as in the dark of like what's going on. Then the next thing I gave them, which is, I need to write a blog on this, but I have those lists that go by all of the parks and one on the resorts that has a watch list. So just a couple of things like my whole resort extras and top 10 cross park movies. I have like, you need to watch behind the attractions transportation, behind the attractions Disney parks dining, behind the attraction Disney cruise line. And then I have top 10 IPs that across multiple parks. Peter Pan, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Toy Story, Monsters, Inc., Frozen, Finding Nemo, Indiana Jones, Coco, The Lion King. But then I go into each park, break it down by area of park, and I put what movies are inspired by the area, the ride, the dining, or the characters that are over in that area. That way, if you want to start building excitement for things for Disney, you tell them, if you guys just want to watch like one or two of these every now and then, the more that you're invested in the Disney story, the more it feels alive when you get there. If you're, let's say, the older kids, they're not interested in all the movies. Maybe they've seen them when they're little, but they watch all the behind the attractions. Do you know how excited they're going to be when they finally walk in and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the monorail. Did you know? Blah, 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 blah. Or when they actually go up into Spaceship Earth and they've watched behind the attractions at Epcot, or the making of Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are the little things that build the excitement to not only make like the planner excited, but also the participants in the Disney vacation. And this helps a ton, especially with little kids. I also have like a list of golden books that I read. And if you've been here for a long time, one of like my original tips, I've seen like creators pick it up now, but because kids are used to watching characters on small screens, they do not realize how big the characters are and they could be scared, especially if they've not been in environments with mascots. So when I'm reading those golden books, I'm always like, now Goofy's big, he's bigger than Daddy, or Mickey's big, he's really tall, he's as tall as Mommy. Because if you ask a kid how big they think Mickey is and they've never seen Mickey before, they're going to tell you he's 2 inches tall. So when they see that giant mouse coming at them with the weird face that doesn't move, you better believe they're going to be scared. So taking them to things like Disney on Ice, where they can see like life size and it's not like that close, introducing them to mascots of like local teams that you go to, all of that helps with building that character interaction. I have a podcast on how social media ruins your Disney vacation, and I talk about manufactured magic. Not all magic is truly manufactured. I probably generalize a little bit, but you have to understand, especially for content creators who care about virality, I am not I am an accidental content creator, so I really don't care about going viral, or like having a huge platform. But there are a lot of creators who intentionally do things because they know it causes a reaction out of the character, out of the experience, and they post those things like they're organic, and they're not necessarily organic because they knew that that is the response. However, it is true. Let's say you go to Bippity and you dress your daughter, picks Tinkerbell, and then you get a spot in the front of the Disney Starlight Parade where Tink walks around. You better believe Tink is going to come over and probably acknowledge them. Now, it's not 100% guarantee, but characters are definitely taught to make a deal, especially if they see themselves. I'll never forget my daughter bounded as Dopey, which is not a common bound. And when we were at Storybook Dining, Dopey like could not leave our table. Like he would go see someone come back. He would leave again and come back. We had so much time with Dopey because of course, like no one really bounds as Dopey. And I knew she would get that reaction out of them. I knew they would be so excited. They've never probably, they don't see it outside of the Dopey challenge. So to have this little girl who you can tell she made her buttons, made her dress to look like Dopey, got a yellow belt, got ears that were Dopey. She worked on her outfit. Of course, they're going to make it a big deal. Is that manufactured? I mean, I knew that she would get a reaction. Did she really knew? Was she hoping that Dopey would care? Yes. And was her reaction genuine to how Dopey reacted to her? Yes. She was so excited. Dopey was so excited. They were hugging. They were dancing. Dopey was like tapping on other cast members and pointing like, look, she's me. She's me. And so, of course, I got super cute videos and very cute reactions. Did I post any of those? No. Why? Because I'm a terrible content creator and I just want you to have the facts and have a good trip. But when you were looking online, you're going to see a lot of people, and especially if they're Disney creators, they knew that that reaction would happen. So, if you have a little girl who dresses like, oh, for instance, we were at Cinderella's Royal Table. We went as Aurora. One of them wore pink, one of them wore blue. Aurora was all over them. Then they actually got picked to do the Wishing Star by Jasmine because they had just gone to Bippity Boppity Boutique, had their sashes on. And so they know to like make it a little extra special for them because they were at the boutique today and now they're at a princess dinner. So you too can manufacture that magic to happen. But just going in an Under Armour t-shirt is not going to make a cast member or character go above and beyond. You're going to have white glove service and special service everywhere because Disney, that's just what Disney is known for. But if you want those internet videos that happen, sometimes you got to do a little bit more in terms of like dressing up or bounding as a character to catch their eye. And again, I think that that's perfectly fine and amazing and wonderful, but I just don't want you to feel sad on your trip if nothing like that happens. And you're like, well, I see it online all the time. I just want you to know that a lot of that is manufactured to get those clicks and likes. And then the last thing that I gave them right now is the Disney packing list. And I gave them all of them. I gave them the car list, all of them but the baby and toddler because they don't have a baby and toddler. So I got them the Disney park items one. I gave them the kids Disney travel, the adult Disney packing list, and the flying and driving checklist. And the reason why I'm giving them this is so that they can start reviewing it to see what they want to buy and what they don't want to buy. That way they can watch out for sales. If you know me, I have a Disney box or really just a vacation box because I do it for every type of vacation. So it doesn't matter if it's a Disney cruise or a Disney theme park, or we're going to Cancun, or we're going to Niagara Falls, or we're going to France. I have a vacation box for every trip that we take. And in that box, I put items that are specifically for that trip because the reality is I try to buy everything I have on sale. I do not want to pay full price for anything. It actually pains my heart if there's not red next to the item that I'm buying, which means sometimes I'm buying things like 8 months in advance. For our Christmas trip, half of the stuff I bought last Christmas when they were doing all the clearance stuff. And it will be in a box for a year before it sees the light. But I knew like $7 ears, like you can't beat that. And so I bought all that stuff. I keep it all in the same box because I do not want to lose it. And I don't want to be looking for it when it's time to come. If I need to get a bigger box, I get a bigger box and I switch everything all at once. That way nothing gets lost. And then, and I buy cute matching outfits, and I just, you know your own kids, you know how they grow. And so I just plan accordingly. But, I want to do the same for them. So if they are going to invest in something for this trip that they also could use at home, I want them to have the list of things that they realistically need. They can go through and then also ask me questions. Like if they're looking at my Disney park list and they're like, okay, we don't actually need fans, right? Because we're going in December. I'd be like, no, we don't need fans. But that's on here because if this was a summer trip, I'd be like, I would highly consider getting fans. Like if you don't want to invest in neck fans because you don't think that you're going to use a neck fan at home, at least get a hand fan because we will use a hand fan sometime at home. If you go to some concert or whatever, you'll be happy that you had it. And most of my friends are baseball moms, so they all appreciate having fans. So that's why I give it to them now. They can start looking at it. They can look at it and be like, this girl is absolutely insane that she has all of these lists. And I will say, you're welcome. You are welcome because I made it for you. You didn't have to think about any of it. And then we'll start there. Then about 2 or 3 months before the trip, we will sit down and we will really start hammering out the days. I always say at 90 days, that's when you start hammering out your actual days because your 60-day dining window is coming and you want to make sure that you've outlined everything to know what days you really want to book any kind of table service and what days you want to rest. And by then, if there's any parties, the dates are already out, you've bought the tickets, and you can plan accordingly. There's no point, honestly, in planning any kind of Disney day at all before 90 days. It just doesn't make sense. Too many things can change. Refurbishments can happen. You really don't need to stress yourself out by trying to plan your days out any earlier than that. 90 days is a safe bet. And even with 90 days, there might be an announcement that something is closing 2 weeks before you get there. But 90 days before, that's when we'll sit down. But by then, I would have had the questionnaire, I would have had the survey, and I would have had some, ideas of how they are. Maybe, and then when we start planning, maybe they have gone to an amusement park and they're like, you know what? Actually, they do like coasters. So I can take their name off that when we're starting to really, really plan. There's one other sheet that I did give them that I want to show you, and they don't need it now. Oh, do I not have it here? I think I do. Hold on. And it is called I don't have it here. I think it's still on my bed. It's called the 6-day outlook. They really don't need that right now, but I still included it. You need that more because what I do with that for those people who are like, well, I don't want to forget something. So I'm not planning out the days, but I don't want to forget something. The 6-day outlook lets you just kind of summarize like the days you're going to be there. So if I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to be at Universal and I saw that they have this like Harry Potter show that does this, you can note that in that box. Like that's what that's for. So the 6-day outlook, and I printed two because we're there for 9 nights. So we need multiple, days. So as I outline what parts I think we're going to go to, because again, it's not like permanent, right? Because we haven't actually sat down and planned, bought tickets or anything like that. I can be like, I know we're going to Magic Kingdom. I know we're going to Islands of Adventure. I know we're going to Epic. And then it's like, oh, I think I want to try this restaurant. I write that down in that box. And then that way I don't forget that that is something that I wanted to try or wanted to do. And whenever it's time to actually plan, I bring that sheet out again and I'm like, okay, I heard of this restaurant. Like, are you interested in this? Because it goes with like the Harry Potter theme. Or I figured we would eat at Three Broomsticks after we go to like Ollivanders and get the robes. And so that could be like for lunch. So that's where you put that like brainstorming stuff that you don't want to forget, but you don't need a plan in detail yet. So that is called the 6-day outlet. It's also in that book and it's also free. And I gave them one because if they hear something or someone tells them something about Magic Kingdom or says, oh, don't forget you need to try these cheeseburger egg rolls, they can put it on their 6-day outlook. And then when we meet 90 days before the trip, when we really start planning, they can bring out theirs and be like, oh, okay, well, someone said they think I would like this, or should we eat at the restaurant Nine Dragons? Or, I want to have a Bippity experience. They're sold on that. Everyone is taking notes on things that they hear or want to do, but without having to like plan it down to a T, if that makes sense. If you know me, I have a Disney box or really just a vacation box because I do it for every type of vacation. So it doesn't matter if it's a Disney cruise or a Disney theme park, or we're going to Cancun, or we're going to Niagara Falls, or we're going to France. I have a vacation box for every trip that we take. And in that box, I put items that are specifically for that trip because the reality is I try to buy everything I have on sale. I do not want to pay full price for anything. It actually pains my heart if there's not red next to the item that I'm buying, which means sometimes I'm buying things like 8 months in advance. For our Christmas trip, half of the stuff I bought last Christmas when they were doing all the clearance stuff. And it will be in a box for a year before it sees the light. But I knew like $7 ears, like you can't beat that. And so I bought all that stuff. I keep it all in the same box because I do not want to lose it. And I don't want to be looking for it when it's time to come. If I need to get a bigger box, I get a bigger box and I switch everything all at once. That way nothing gets lost. And I buy cute matching outfits. And I just, your own kids, you know how they grow. And so I just plan accordingly. But I want to do the same for them. So if they are going to invest in something for this trip that they also could use at home, I want them to have the list of things that they realistically need. They can go through and then also ask me questions. Like if they're looking at my Disney park list and they're like, okay, we don't actually need fans, right? Because we're going in December. I'd be like, no, we don't need fans. But that's on here because if this was a summer trip, I'd be like, I would highly consider getting fans. Like if you don't want to invest in neck fans because you don't think that you're going to use a neck fan at home, at least get a hand fan because we will use a hand fan sometime at home. If you go to some concert or whatever, you'll be happy that you had it. And most of my friends are baseball moms, so they all appreciate having fans. So that's why I give it to them now. They can start looking at it. They can look at it and be like, this girl is absolutely insane that she has all of these lists. And I will say, you're welcome. You are welcome because I made it for you. You didn't have to think about any of it. And then we'll start there. Then about 2 or 3 months before the trip, we will sit down and we will really start hammering out the days. I always say at 90 days, that's when you start hammering out your actual days because your 60-day dining window is coming and you want to make sure that you've outlined everything to know what days you really want to book any kind of table service and what days you want to rest. And by then, if there's any parties, the dates are already out, you've bought the tickets and you can plan accordingly. There's no point, honestly, in planning any kind of Disney day at all before 90 days. It just doesn't make sense. Too many things can change, refurbishments can happen. You really don't need to stress yourself out by trying to plan your days out any earlier than that. 90 days is a safe bet. And even with 90 days, there might be an announcement that something is closing 2 weeks before you get there. But 90 days before, that's when we'll sit down. But by then, I would have had the questionnaire, I would have had the survey, and I would have had some, ideas of how they are. Maybe, and then when we start planning, maybe they have gone to an amusement park and they're like, you know what? Actually, they do like coasters. So I can take their name off that when we're starting to really, really plan. There's one other sheet that I did give them that I want to show you, and they don't need it now. Oh, do I not have it here? I think I do. Hold on. And it is called I don't have it here. I think it's still on my bed. It's called the 6-day outlook. They really don't need that right now, but I still included it. You need that more because what I do with that for those people who are like, well, I don't want to forget something. So I'm not planning out the days, but I don't want to forget something. The 6-day outlook lets you just kind of summarize like the days you're going to be there. So if I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to be at Universal and I saw that they have this like Harry Potter show that does this, you can note that in that box. Like that's what that's for. So the 6-day outlook, and I printed 2 because we're there for 9 nights. So we need multiple, days. So as I outline what parks I think we're going to go to, because again, it's not like permanent, right? Because we haven't actually sat down and planned, bought tickets or anything like that. I can be like, I know we're going to Magic Kingdom. I know we're going to Islands of Adventure. I know we're going to Epic. And then it's like, oh, I think I want to try this restaurant. I write that down in that box. And then that way I don't forget that that is something that I wanted to try or wanted to do. And whenever it's time to actually plan, I bring that sheet out again and I'm like, okay, I heard of this restaurant. Like, are you interested in this? Because it goes with like the Harry Potter theme. Or I figured we would eat at Three Broomsticks after we go to like Ollivander's and get the robes. And so that could be like for lunch. So that's where you put that like brainstorming stuff that you don't want to forget, but you don't need a plan in detail yet. So that is called the 6-day outlet. It's also in that book and it's also, and I gave them one because if they hear something or someone tells them something about Magic Kingdom or says, oh, don't forget you need to try these cheeseburger egg rolls, they can put it on their 6-day outlook. And then when we meet 90 days before the trip, when we really start planning, they can bring out theirs and be like, oh, okay, well, someone said they think I would like this, or should we eat at the restaurant Nine Dragons? Or, I want to have a Bippity experience. They're sold on that. Everyone is taking notes on things that they hear or want to do, but without having to like plan it down to a T, if that makes sense. Okay, so I hope that this was not too much information, and I hope you're okay with the video podcast that I did today because it's just easier to show a lot of you and then walk you through what I was showing you if you were listening to this in the car. So definitely check out those websites. They will help you a ton, and hopefully this like eases any nervousness in planning this trip. You got the basics down, the when are we going, how long are we going, and where are we staying. You have all the sheets you need, and you don't need to start planning your days until 90 days before because you want to be prepared at 60 days for your booking of dining and enchanted extras. And that's all you really need to do. You honestly don't need to start planning detailed days after you've booked your dining at 60 days. 30 days before is when you really start hammering out the details of what is each day actually going to look like. Then you book your lightning lane 7 days before, and then it's time for your trip. But those packing lists help you throughout the year because you're planning ahead of what you need. There's also something else that you might want. I use this, but a lot of people don't necessarily need it. I have an outfit planner on there. I have one specifically for kids that goes up to 4 kids because that's what I have. And then I also have like an outfit planner for like your family. I am someone who likes coordinated outfits. My kids don't like to match anymore. We're out of that phase, but we do coordinate. So like for instance, right right now, we're about to go on the Disney Wish in November. And when we go on board and we take all the pictures like in port, I want us to all just kind of be like a Cinderella theme because it's like a princess ship. It's Cinderella hosted. And so I think I've actually bought everything now for everyone. And we just kind of all have like a theme around that. So I'm wearing like the Cinderella jersey. My husband's wearing Prince Charming. My oldest son has a gray shirt that just says Charming on it. The other three are all wearing outfits from Taylor Jolie's Cinderella line. And so we just have like a common theme going in. So for the outfit planner, I use it for that because for dinners, I typically like us to match. And then certain days at the park, I like us to like coordinate, like have an up theme. And now everyone's like really into like more bounding than character dressing. Only my 6-year-old dresses as the character anymore. But then it allows me to like plan that ahead of time, look for sales and know what I need to buy. Now, do I expect people who are going with us to do that? No, I don't think that they're going to want to. But for my family, I do that. So that might be another thing that you look at is the outfit planner in that planning book. As always, I just want to thank you for listening to the podcast. I know there's so many Disney podcasts that you can listen to. So I'm always grateful for every listener and everyone who shares it with someone else. If you know anyone who's going to Disney World, especially for the first time, please be sure to share this podcast with them. And I hope that you have a magical rest of your day.